US President is set to deliver his State of the Union speech later tonight. Joe Biden will address Congress for the second time since taking office at a moment of great scrutiny of his leadership. The president recently came under fire for his handling of an incursion into US airspace by a suspected Chinese spy balloon. He's also being investigated for a possible mishandling of classified documents.
With all the bright spots in our economy,
Joe Biden there. Well, that's not quite the State of the Union speech. There'll be one delivered tonight. We're going to be crossing over in a minute to speak to Arise US correspondent Eric Ham, who is, I am told, getting on the line to tell us more about the highlights in this State of the Union address, what we can expect from Mr. Biden in the circumstances, because of course this is all coming on the back of that balloon affair, as you might know. There's also the issue of a spate of mass shootings recently in America. There is the looming crisis with China. Not just economically, but potentially militarily. And also, there's been tremendous speculation about whether or not Mr. Biden will run for a second term. If he is planning to run for a second term, then this would be a sterling opportunity to set out his stall with the American people and make his case for them giving him a second chance at being president. Of course, if he wins, he will become the oldest president. He's already the oldest president in American history, but he would have completed his second term at about the age of 86, which is really quite remarkable. Well, for more on President Biden's address, let's cross live now to the US Capitol, where Arise US correspondent Eric Ham joins me live. Good to see you, Eric. So what are you expecting President Biden to highlight in his State of the Union address? How will he make his case to the American people?
Well, Charles, it's going to be a heavy, heavy lift for the president. Already we are learning now that more than 60% of Americans believe that the president hasn't gotten a lot done in these 2 years. And so tonight he is going to have to make a sell to this Congress, which of course we know is split between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans control the House of Representatives for the first time in his administration, but he's also got to make the case to a wary American public who continues to see inflation continue to rise, gas prices continuing to go back up, housing prices going back up, food prices going back up. And so this is going to be a heavy lift for the president, particularly at a time when there is growing concern about the rising threat to China, and many, particularly in the opposition party, are concerned about where things are headed with the war between Russia and Ukraine, and more importantly, what is the United States' role in that war?
Well, absolutely. And what the world doesn't want to see, as I'm sure you're aware, Eric, is rising tensions between these two great superpowers, the US and China, the Chinese balloon affair looming large. But with the recent spate of mass shootings in America, is he likely to talk about gun control and rising crime?
You got to continue to speak out.
Absolutely. In fact, we know that there will be members of the Tyre Nichols family, that young black man who was recently killed by police officers. They will actually be in attendance as guests of the First Lady, Joe Biden. They will be in the audience as well for this event. And we know that is certainly going to be an issue that the president is going to talk about. In addition to that, one other issue that we know President Biden is going to address tonight is going to be the issue of a woman's right to choose. We know that played heavily in the midterm elections. It's going to play heavily heading into 2024. Now, Charles, some other information that we got in terms of reporting is that when President Biden met with the new House Speaker, Republican Kevin McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy told the president not to use the term extreme MAGA Republicans. So it will be interesting to see tonight if, in fact, President Biden uses that term when he gives this address tonight. We know there's deep polarization in Washington between Republicans and Democrats. Of course, we're watching to see what happens with newly announced candidate Donald Trump. Even though he will not be at the speech, he looms large over everything that happens in Washington right now. It'll be also interesting to see if the president should invoke his name tonight as well.
Eric, thanks very much indeed. And Eric Ham, Arise US correspondent there, talking to me from the Capitol building in Washington. Eric will, of course, be exceedingly busy tonight, not only listening to that speech, but analyzing it for us after it's been made. Eric.